Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2024, and I just want to talk to y'all about conversational narcissists. I realize that there are some people in this world who you enjoy talking to, and then there are other people in this world who you really don't enjoy talking to. I realize that I do not enjoy talking to people who hijack conversations. I don't enjoy talking to people who are always so quick to try to interject their own opinion, and they never really try to flesh out your thinking. They always want to dump. They always want to try to act as though they're the authority on everything. And these people oftentimes don't make space for your thinking. And that's what I don't care for. I don't care for people that do not make space for my thinking, people that don't ask exploratory questions, like those get to know you questions like, how are you doing? What do you feel about this? There are certain people out there that they pride themselves on dominating conversations, and they really don't care how they come across to other people. And with those people, I cannot be around them because I realize that I feel like I'm drowning. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody where you feel as though you had to fight for your life? You should never have to feel as though you have to fight for your life in conversation with people. And I think these days, everybody is so quick to share their knowledge. They're so quick to get up on their soapbox. They're so quick to just always share their own thinking. We are an opinionated generation. And oftentimes those opinions are uninformed. And there is no critical thinking. People struggle with critical thinking, and they struggle with leaving space for other people's thinking. And I think this is what results in a lot of conflict, a lot of discord, a lot of angry feelings, because people are not really listening. People are listening to respond as opposed to listening to internalize and to accept. And I just can't. That's why I like reading, because it gives me a moment where I can be silent and be in dialogue with the book. This is why I like talking to certain people that have a social work or a mental health background and a training, because they get it. And this is not all, mind you, because there are social workers, there are therapists who are conversational narcissists and who really don't put into practice the dynamics of communication, healthy communication. And so I pride myself on being a very effective communication specialist. I love communicating with people. I understand the point of verbal and nonverbal cues. I understand the importance of letting other people speak and listening as an act of love. Where is the love? Where are the people who are listening to one another, really listening not just to what is being said, but the underlying message behind the words? Oftentimes there are no efforts made to really listen to people, and it is exhausting. I am exasperated sometimes listening to people because they just want to pontificate. They just want to get up on a soapbox, as I mentioned earlier, and just espouse their views, and their views are just so nonsensical. And so you're giving them space, you're giving people, just the space to process, but at the same time, you're just like, I'm not being extended the same courtesy. And see, that's when I shut down. Like when I realize that I'm in conversation with somebody and I'm not given the same consideration or the same courtesy, or I'm not being listened to, well, guess what? That's when I start to hijack the conversation. And then at that moment, you start to realize that it's nothing but a verbal fist fight. It feels like a verbal, you're just two dogs barking in a ring. And it's just like, what's the point? I came to the conversation because I wanted to be heard, because I wanted to be comforted, because I wanted to be validated, because I wanted a sense of community and a sense of mutuality. That's why I come to the conversation. But a lot of times people come to the conversation because they want to seem like big shots. They want to try to dominate. They want to express their knowledge base. And it's just, once again, that's ego-based conversations. I don't really care too much for ego-based conversations. I love conversations that are organic, conversations that just have a natural flow, where they feel easy. Easy conversations. I love easy conversations because it relaxes your nervous system. It relaxes your nervous system. It puts everybody at ease. It makes everybody feel comfortable, and it makes everybody feel heard, seen, witnessed. It makes you feel human. Conversational narcissists have a tendency to dehumanize people with the power of their words and with the power of the tongue. They just don't get it. They just don't understand how monopolizing an entire conversation really it adversely affects communication. It interferes with one's desire to continue to converse, because there are people who I've seen, they literally shut down and they just become like these empty vessels, these bodies that just nod their head in autopilot mode, but they don't really listen. They've checked out. And so after a while, when you're speaking with someone who tries to hijack the conversation, you check out. You realize that there's nothing here that pertains to me. There's nothing here that really interests me or that tries to tease out my interests. So this conversation is just dead. It's a pointless conversation. And I think a lot of people, they like dumping as opposed to mutually sharing. See, me, I don't mind to share, even a vent. Venting, like I said, I put a time limit on it. Here, 15 minutes, you can vent, and then we go into a solution focus mode. Dumping, I don't really like dumping because dumping implies a lack of consideration for the listener. Dumping implies somebody that just wants to come to the conversation to relieve themselves. And oftentimes people that suffer from anxiety, they dump. They dump. And this is in an effort to relieve themselves, but they're not thinking about how the listener has to carry the energy behind their words now. The listener now has to carry all this heaviness inside themselves. And so it's just a lack of consideration, and I think also it's important for those who find themselves always listening to take on a more assertive presentation and demeanor within a conversation. You have to adopt an assertive demeanor within certain conversations, because if you don't interject yourself in a conversation, you're not going to be heard. You're not going to be heard. So for those who find that they're always at the listening end of the spectrum, you're going to have to take an assertive demeanor in conversations. You're going to have to take up space. You're going to have to demand other people listen to you the same way that you listen. For those who find that they take more of a talking role, then I would encourage them to listen more. I would encourage them to actually sit back silently and really tune in, listen, pay attention to body language, pay attention to what is being said, really tune in, and not with a desire to respond, but rather with a desire to understand. As I mentioned before, a lot of people, they only listen because they want to know what to say next, as opposed to really genuinely trying to understand and leaning into what other people are saying with the goal of understanding. I think the world is missing that today. No one is trying to understand no one. Everybody wants you to understand them. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants you to listen to them. And it's like, this is why we're butting heads. This is why there's such conflict. There's such turmoil, Most of the tangles that happen at work, at school, out in the street, are the result of people that have no desire to understand. Because if you listen with a really heartfelt, genuine desire to understand, that will come across. And when people feel like you're trying to understand them, they're motivated to also listen to you in kind. But you have to, for one, be willing willing to listen. So for those who talk a lot, please listen. For those who listen more than they speak, it's time for you to get in the game. It's time for you to once again adopt a demeanor of assertion. You have to get yourself in the game, because if you don't, chances are you'll be forgotten. And you can't allow yourself to be forgotten. You have to be the person, the one person that is listening to you. You know, right now, I realize that I've played both sides, where I've talked a lot and I've also listened a lot. And I realize that as a person that loves to listen, there are moments where I have to consciously and intentionally decide to put myself in the conversation, because if I don't, I realize some people won't. They won't ask you about how you're doing. They won't ask you about your day. They won't ask you about your life, your interests, your hobbies. They won't ask you. If you don't bring yourself into the conversation, chances are you're not going to be found. And so to those, stop waiting to be found in conversations and start finding yourself in conversations. Talking yourself up. And once again, if you are a person that struggles with listening and you're always running your mouth, hijacking conversations, you gotta stop doing that, because you're gonna find that people avoid your phone call. You're gonna find that people dodge your messages. They don't respond back to you because they just don't feel as though they are seen, valued, respected, and included within your life story. And if people don't see themselves reflected in your discussion, then chances are they won't be motivated to be a part of your discussion. So once again, this is just food for thought. Please, 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 if you want to effectively communicate and build with somebody, it has to be a happy balance between listening and talking. So hope this video was helpful. I'm wishing everybody a wonderful 2024. Peace, y'all.